Training camp news is finally flowing out of Denver, and while it's not exactly the feel-good headlines everyone was hoping for, there's a ton to unpack. A promising young offensive lineman's path back to the roster just got significantly harder. A linebacker many considered a legitimate breakout candidate is now dealing with a mystery injury of his own. And a polarizing college football star with a checkered reputation is reportedly being floated as a potential fit in Denver, a suggestion that deserves some serious pushback. Let's dive into everything shaking out of Broncos camp right now. Let's start with the tough news. A young offensive lineman who suffered a gruesome ankle tear during last year's preseason has officially been placed on the physically unable to perform list to open training camp, and reports indicate he's not expected to be healthy by the time the regular season begins either. For those unfamiliar with how this works, starting the season on that list means missing a minimum of the first 4 games, essentially functioning like an early trip to injured reserve. And here's the harsh reality of professional football: missing the entire previous season while trying to develop and prove himself simply hasn't done this player any favors. That might sound like a tough thing to say, but availability is everything in this league, and with how deep and talented this particular offensive line has become, this now represents a genuinely steep uphill climb for him to even secure a practice squad spot, let alone a spot on the actual 53-man roster. And that's a real shame, because before that injury struck, this player was actually playing some outstanding football. Going back and reviewing his tape from a preseason matchup against a division rival last year, he graded out exceptionally well across nearly 30 total snaps, posting strong marks in both run blocking and pass protection, and allowing 0 pressures in that game. Sure, that came against backup-level competition, players who mostly ended up on practice squads or getting cut entirely, but the tape showed real technical polish. This is a player known for excellent hand usage, placing his hands precisely at the point of attack, and playing a disciplined, smart brand of football without racking up unnecessary penalties. Unfortunately, with how stacked this current offensive line group has become, and barring something drastic happening between now and final roster cuts, it's looking increasingly unlikely he finds a spot on the active 53 this season. The most realistic outcome is a stint on the practice squad while he continues rehabbing, with the door potentially open for a game day elevation down the road if injuries strike elsewhere on the line. Now for the second piece of tough injury news, and this one might actually carry bigger implications for this defense. A promising young linebacker who many analysts and insiders believed had a legitimate shot at winning that crucial third linebacker role in camp is now starting camp on the non-football injury list. No specifics on the nature of the injury have been released, and while landing on this particular list isn't necessarily season-ending, it does cast an unwelcome shadow over a position group that a fair number of fans already viewed as this roster's biggest relative weakness. And look, calling this the weakest position group doesn't mean it's actually bad. This is a genuinely loaded roster overall, so weakest is a relative term. The top 2 linebacker spots remain rock solid with 2 established veterans anchoring that group. But everything behind them is wide open, and this particular young player had quietly become one of the front office's favorite developmental options behind the scenes, even if he wasn't generating a ton of outside hype heading into camp. In limited action last season, working primarily on special teams with only a small handful of true defensive snaps, he actually graded out quite well in both run defense and as a pass rusher in those limited opportunities, alongside a respectable special teams grade. His game reportedly features excellent zone coverage instincts, strong play recognition, and the kind of cerebral, film-obsessed preparation that coaches love to see in a young player. He profiles as something of an old-school run-stuffing linebacker who can also hold his own in coverage, exactly the kind of versatile skill set this defense could use more of. With him now sidelined to open camp, the door swings wide open for a couple of other depth linebackers to seize that third and fourth linebacker opportunity instead. It's a genuinely fascinating subplot to track as camp progresses, especially for a fan base that's rightfully curious to see which of these younger, less heralded names steps up to fill the void. Now let's shift to a rumor that's been making the rounds, one that deserves a healthy dose of skepticism. After a talented, athletic quarterback was recently waived by a division rival, some national outlets floated Denver as a potential landing spot for him, praising his rushing production and athletic upside, drawing comparisons to one of the most effective utility quarterback roles the league has seen in recent memory. And look, from a purely football standpoint, there's plenty to like here. This is a player who racked up serious rushing yardage and touchdown production last season, and by every account, plays the game with a genuine, infectious passion that stands out compared to plenty of players who treat football as simply a job rather than a calling. But here's the real problem, and it has nothing to do with his talent on the field. This is a player whose only rival in terms of passion for football is his passion for the spotlight itself. And when your third-string quarterback craves attention and media presence that intensely, it becomes a genuine distraction risk for the locker room and the organization as a whole. The absolute worst thing a backup quarterback can bring to a team, aside from poor play, is being a magnet for unwanted media attention. The spotlight in any quarterback room should always belong to the starter, full stop. History is littered with examples of backup quarterbacks whose outsized media presence and polarizing personalities created genuine headaches for their locker rooms, and this situation carries all the same warning signs. To be clear, this isn't a shot at his ability as a football player. He's undeniably electric to watch, a small, dynamic, fiery competitor who plays with the kind of energy that makes for great television. Statistically, he belongs in genuinely rare company among college quarterbacks who combined serious passing and rushing production in a single season. A list that includes some legitimately elite college talents. But talent alone doesn't erase red flags. This is also a player who, following one of the sport's most prestigious individual award ceremonies, was seen publicly celebrating with inflammatory signage and gestures directed at a rival program. Hardly the kind of maturity and professionalism you want walking into an already crowded quarterback room. When directly asked about potentially embracing a versatile utility quarterback role in a televised interview, his response was essentially just "put me on the field," a quote that sounds appropriately hungry and competitive on the surface, but reads very differently when paired with everything else about his public persona. The current quarterback room in Denver seems perfectly fine as currently constructed, with a presumed established backup representing better value and a stronger recent trajectory than any outside alternative currently on the trade or free agent market. And here's the most obvious question worth asking about this entire rumor in the first place. If this player were truly such a can't-miss, dynamic playmaking talent, why did his previous team cut him loose in the first place? That question alone should give this front office plenty of reason to pass on this particular pursuit entirely. So here's where things stand as camp continues in Denver. A talented young offensive lineman facing an uphill, possibly season-long battle just to make his way back onto this roster. A promising linebacker's injury blowing open a legitimately important competition for playing time behind this team's two established starters. And a media rumor connecting this team to a talented but polarizing quarterback that, upon closer inspection, probably isn't worth the distraction it would inevitably bring. So tell us, which of these two injured players are you rooting hardest to see bounce back and make an impact this season? And do you agree that this front office should steer completely clear of that quarterback rumor, or do you think the athletic upside is worth the risk? Let us know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown of everything happening in Broncos camp right now, make sure to like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single update as training camp continues to unfold. There's a lot more news still to come, and we'll be right back here with the next update very soon. See you in the next one.